Hello and welcome back. I'm Doug Carmen, Special Assistant to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs for Public-Private Partnerships, and I'd like to welcome you today to our VA Partnership Showcase in our three-part series. This is our continuation of our broader series that highlights successful partnerships between the Department of Veterans Affairs and non-governmental organizations, or NGOs as we like to call them. As a veteran myself, I've witnessed firsthand how engaging in public-private partnerships enables us to build capacity, leverage resources, address new and emerging needs, build on the knowledge and experiences of one another, plus they're just the right thing to do. Partnerships are a force multiplier that allow us to expand our knowledge and expertise. Here at the VA, we've been working very hard over the past few years to enhance our partnership processes and empower our staff with the right tools and resources to improve public-private partnerships at the local level. This is accompanied by identifying those key elements of successful collaborations and then defining ways to standardize these processes that can become commonplace for other partnerships. We are definitely on the way to creating an even more welcoming environment for public-private partnerships. Now I'll hand it over to Leela Jackson, our Acting Director for the Office of Community Engagement and our Veterans Health Administration, to update you on some of the great work they're doing with our private sector partners.
Thanks, Doug. Hello, everyone. And similar to Doug, my work involves stewarding and leveraging public-private partnerships throughout VA's Veterans Health Administration. The mission of the Office of Community Engagement is to serve as a trusted resource and catalyst for the growth of effective partnerships at the state, national, and local levels. We serve as an access point or just a welcoming front door to public and private entities interested in partnering with VHA to benefit veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. VHA medical facilities are nestled in communities that stretch across the United States and its territories, and our nation's veterans are an integral part of those local communities. We know that these local communities have tremendous talent and resources that can expand and enhance VA healthcare services to veterans and their beneficiaries. As a veteran myself, I appreciate the fact that VA extends its walls into a greater community of resources. So today's showcase will highlight one of VHA's successful partnerships serving homeless veterans. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Anthony Love, a Senior Advisor and the Director of Community Engagement in VHA's homeless programs. Anthony is a subject matter expert who will highlight a successful non-monetary public-private partnership between VA and a non-governmental organization, and he will walk us through the chronology of that partnership. Anthony?
Thank you. So again, we're going to talk about a partnership between VHA homeless programs and a local partner from a neighboring community. Before I get started, the flow of this conversation, or this presentation, will be to talk about VHA homeless programs, to give an overview, talk about our mission and so forth, talk about the partnership itself, how the partnership started, how we became partners or are becoming a partner, what benefits does this partnership have to the veteran. We talk about the resources that are involved, as well as expansion opportunities for a partnership of this sort, and the impact and the performance standards that we have in place. And then we'll open it up for questions and comments. So at the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, President Obama and former VA Secretary Ari Shinseki announced that we would have a goal of ending homelessness among veterans by the end of 2015. This bold proclamation, this bold announcement made for VA homeless programs to really transform the way that they delivered services to those veterans seeking to exit homelessness. So a plan was put in place to meet this goal that involves 6 pillars. These 6 pillars range from outreach, going to where the veteran is and making sure that he or she has the services that they need, to developing more community partnerships so that we can leverage those resources in the community to fill the gaps that would exist for those veterans who need the support necessary to successfully exit homelessness. Also, we had to be clear about what it is that we meant when we talked about ending homelessness among veterans. And so to end homelessness among veterans mean that there are no veterans sleeping on our streets, and every veteran that's in shelter or in transitional housing has rapid access to permanent housing. It doesn't mean that no veteran will ever become homeless ever again. There's always those situations that happen in life that could cause a veteran to lose his or her home. But in the event that that happens, VA will have the capacity to quickly connect that veteran to the help they need to achieve housing stability. As we begin to look at filling gaps to meet the need of homeless veterans, this local partner was already serving homeless in Philadelphia for over 2 decades. They had a long track record of making sure that individuals and families who were homeless in Philadelphia had access to housing and services necessary to help them to exit that situation. This particular partner decided that they want to incorporate a steady focus on veterans, and not only veterans, but those veterans who were chronically homeless, who suffered from schizophrenia, post-traumatic stress disorder, or any other serious mental illness. They really want to focus on the veteran that had a lot of needs. They wanted to really get down in there and make sure those veterans had the support that they needed. So they applied for a grant that the VA had put on the streets roughly about 12 years ago. The VA and this particular local partner began to then partner and implement a shared outreach initiative so that they could definitely identify those veterans who have those special needs. Needless to say, the recipient put forth a very competitive grant, and the grant was funded. This partnership now provides access to veterans who otherwise would have a very difficult time outside of the VA getting services. As many of these veterans sometimes are very resistant to services, so the outreach is something that has to take place over a period of time to gain that veteran's trust. So as we were beginning to move forward with this partnership, the local medical center and this particular nonprofit began to meet and talk about overall what the needs were. The VA was very aware of this nonprofit's work within the community and had informally worked with the VA on other projects. The nonprofit then began to talk to the homeless programs, Healthcare for Homeless Veterans coordinator, and began to talk about how we would connect those veterans who were the most difficult to reach to the particular services and standard particular services and resources that they would need to exit homelessness. And as they began to develop this partnership, keep in mind that both the VA and this nonprofit were held to the standards and the rules that govern this grant. So there was nothing done outside of this grant. The nonprofit is compensated for the eligible services that are in compliance with the terms of the grant. So as we begin to get this off the ground, I would like to say that it was smooth sailing, but there were some bumpy waters. This was a particular grant that involved the construction of a facility and then resources that would come pretty regularly. This was our grant and per diem program. So some of the early struggles were, of course, delays with construction. Of course, that never happens. But in this particular case, there were delays, so it pushed back the opportunity for us to move quickly. This was a time where blending resources and supports, that was a novel idea. That was pretty difficult because that's just everyone worked in their own space. And so it took several meetings so that we could clarify and be crystal clear how these shared resources would all come together to support ending chronic homelessness among veterans. And while there were some startup pains regarding admission criteria, I mean, there was really some difficulty in terms of how do you prioritize particular veterans for this program and make sure that it's consistent with what was agreed to. So as we begin to move forward, some of those issues faded into the background, and the needs of the veteran became the solely. So we got past all of the other things that possibly could interfere with serving those particular veterans. As this partnership moved into year 2 and year 3, there were more adjustments you had to get used to. As with a number of nonprofits, even within the federal government, we had to deal with staff turnover. So some of the folks who were originally at the table had turned over, and so you had to orient the folks who were now there about the partnership, what was agreed to, and so forth, and make sure that we move forward. Well, it's one of the saving graces is that the key principals who were there at the beginning were still there, and they shared that philosophy that every veteran deserved a home, so that this remained the key focus. There are also challenges around, drumroll, paperwork. As we begin to have to document the work that's being done, sometimes community providers have to get used to the rigorous amount of paperwork that takes place. As well as, since this was a partnership, there had to be some sharing of data to make sure that we were reaching the veterans that we wanted to reach. And also, finally, make sure that the missions, the mission of VA and the mission of this nonprofit, really kind of meshed or was aligned and made sure that that we were working for the best interest of the veteran. And so with this particular partnership and making sure that our missions were aligned and making sure we were sharing data, this really positioned Philadelphia as one of the first major cities to make sure veterans had a certain place to call home. So where are we today? So these additional services, so these services that were added through this grant have expanded. This particular nonprofit has brought on board additional resources and made sure that additional services are there for that particular veteran. They also are meeting the needs of very low-income veterans and their families through our Supportive Services for Veteran Families grant. So they're not only serving those high-risk veterans with this partnership, but they're also using those resources to target those veterans who are low-income along with their families. To sustain this particular partnership, of course, it will be all predicated on funding availability. Each year, as VA gets its budget and puts out this particular grant, any sustainability of this program will be predicated upon budgets, for lack of a better term. This is a local program, and this is work that we're doing with this particular local entity, and there's been no talks of expansion, although there are other programs around the country that do something similar, but not specifically what this partnership brings to the table for those veterans who are the most difficult to serve and have the most difficult time of exiting homelessness. In order to expand, if we were to expand this particular program to other communities, of course, additional resources would need to be made available. They can come from VA incumbent upon funding availability, or from other mainstream resources. There are other mainstream resources that particularly provide services to other folks in this position who are not necessarily homeless, but those same resources can be made available for those veterans who are homeless if we just make sure that they are connected to those resources. So how does this benefit the veteran? So these veterans who are considered the most vulnerable, who suffer from schizophrenia and post-traumatic stress disorder, they get the extensive care that they need along with housing to stabilize and work on improving their quality of life. So they are put in a situation where we first and foremost eliminate the chaos that goes along with homelessness, and then make sure that these services that they need are wrapped around them. It's very veteran-centric. It is very focused on the needs of that veteran so that they can not only stabilize, but their quality of life improves considerably. This is also an area in terms of having a multidisciplinary outreach between the local nonprofit and VA and other providers within the community. We meet the veteran where they are, regardless of what the particular services that they need. We go to them and make sure that they have access to the services that will help them move forward and exit homelessness as quickly as possible. This coordinated outreach with VA happens right now once a week. The nonprofit goes out every day of the week, but specifically the VA homeless program goes out with this particular program once a week and goes where the veteran is, and it connects with roughly about 30 to 40 veterans per week. These beds that are available for these veterans are considered beds, meaning that the criteria to get in those beds generally do not go any further than eligibility, meaning that they are an eligible veteran and that they are willing, and willing means that they've made the choice to come in for these intensive services. And these, again, services are accessible to those veterans who have a myriad of challenges. As I mentioned earlier, other community groups are now part of this partnership, and even when VA doesn't go on the outreach with them, veterans who are homeless out in the community are directed to this particular program or to the VA. So the resources that are provided by VA involve healthcare for homeless veteran outreach staff. Again, as I mentioned, they go out once a week in coordination with this particular partner. VA also provides the grant to the partner for 10 beds, again, targeting the most chronically homeless veteran. And let me be clear, chronically homeless mean a veteran who is disabled, who has been homeless consistently for a year, or has had at least 4 incidents of homelessness in the last 3 years, and they also have a serious mental illness. The partner, of course, provides all the resources at their disposal for this veteran. They provide the outreach staff, the case managers, and the clinical support in partnership with VA. Since 2002, this partnership has served hundreds of formerly homeless veterans, and they've transitioned from the program and made a home in the local community. It is the only one that is really a low barrier harm reduction program, and it really meets the needs of these homeless veterans. If there are any other questions after this hangout, here's my information, or if there's any feedback for this particular showcase, there's Doug Carmen's information. Thank you so much.
Excellent presentation, Anthony. Thank you for that. Now we're going to open it up to some questions from the audience. Please continue to submit your live questions, and we'll do our best to take as many as possible. So let's start with the first one, and Anthony, this is for you. The goal was to end homelessness by 2015. What will happen to this VA homeless program after 2015?
So that's a very good question, Doug. And the goal is still to end veteran homelessness by the end of 2015. So the program will continue to be around, if not for but 2 reasons. First, there will always be those veterans who are at risk and could be on the verge of losing their home. And so the program will be in place to quickly identify those veterans and ensure they get the resources that they need in order to stay in their home. The second reason will be there will always be those realities and those situations in life that cause a person to lose their home. We may not be able to get to them in time. However, we will have the capacity, and we will be built to get to them as quickly as possible after losing their home, and to get them rehoused as soon as possible and make sure that they are stable and have the supports that they need to stay in that housing. So we plan to be around to make sure that we maintain the gains that we've made over the last 5 years of this plan, as well as to make sure others don't fall into homelessness.
Great, thank you for that. Looks like we've got a question for Leela, and this was from a previous Google Hangout question and answer session, and we thought it would be good to include that in this one. So this is there a process in place to assist veterans beyond housing and furniture needs, such as medical and mental health services?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. We have a number of partnerships around mental health and homelessness. But our office, the Office of Community Engagement, serves as an access point for those organizations who'd like to reach out to VA program offices to build partnerships. And so, because we've heard, from a number of organizations that VA is huge, and how do I get in? Where do we start? And so our office serves as, we like to call it a welcoming front door to help organizations partner with VHA. And so we do the initial questions, we ask questions, we do a little due diligence, make sure that our missions, the mission of that organization aligns to VHA's or VA's strategic plan and our priority goals here. But it's simple. All you have to do is email us at vhacommunityengagement@va.gov, and that's vhacommunityengagement@va.gov.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's good information that a lot of folks will be able to use out there when they're looking at, different ways that they can engage us around public-private partnerships, especially if you're watching and maybe you're an organization that has a number of different service lines. And while homelessness may be one aspect, there may be other ones around employment or medical care, mental health. There's a lot of similarities between the ways that we do public-private partnerships, and then obviously there's unique things depending on exactly what type of service and partnership that we're developing. Okay, great. Looks like we've got another question. This one's for you, Anthony. And this is from Rob via Google Hangout. From the initial point of contact with a homeless veteran, about how long does it take to find some kind of housing for the veteran?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Thank you, Rob. So depending on the type of housing that we're trying to get the veteran in, and depending on the occupancy rates within your community, it can take, if we're going to take them to emergency shelter or transitional housing, they can go into housing immediately. If it is to get into permanent housing, it may take a little longer because you have to find the available unit and also have to go through the process of leasing and so forth. As you and I know, even if we rent an apartment, it is not necessarily available to us the very same day.
Right.
So it just depends on the housing, but we can get a veteran into some type of housing immediately if they are willing to go and the bed is available.
Super, super. Thanks for sharing that. Looks like we've got time for about one more question. And please keep in mind that if we don't get your question, we will do our best to answer it. And one of the places that we're going to plan on using is VA's Vantage Point. It's VA's official blog, and that's at www.blogs.va.gov/Vantage, but it's VA's Vantage Point, and that's a place where we can answer some questions if you have them after this. And also, I want to make sure that we include that if you do have a question, you want to email it to us. Remember, that's p3@va.gov. So our last question, Anthony, is for you. What measures are you using for this partnership?
That's a fantastic question. Again, you guys are asking great questions. So I won't list every single measure. As a federal agency, you can imagine the measures can go on and on and on, but I will use specific measures that have the most impact. So we measure the number of veterans that you come in contact with. How many contacts are we making? How many veterans are these outreach efforts finding? B, the beds that the partner is providing 10, are they full? What is the occupancy rate? Third one is the length of time in this particular program. And then, of course, the final one, how many are exiting into permanent housing?
Right, right. And that's certainly, you know, I know in my work with NGO stakeholders, there's a lot of interest, not only from the private sector, but also the public side, about the return on investment.
Absolutely.
You know, when we invest in these partnerships, how are we capturing the impact that they're having? You know, those outcomes, impacts, the performance measures. So looks like our time is about up. Thank you, everyone, for submitting your questions. Those were great, and as Anthony shared in his presentations, partnerships can be a game-changing tool. VA is always looking to expand our capabilities by reaching out, increasing, and leveraging the value of responsible and productive partnerships. We are committed to making our collaborations the very best they can be. I want to thank you for your support of VA and your dedication to serving America's veterans and their families. Anthony, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Absolutely. Thanks again, Doug. And on behalf of all of my colleagues who worked on this fantastic hangout and the folks that were up here with me, I want to thank you all for joining us during this VA Partnership Showcase. The video of today's 3 hangouts have been uploaded to YouTube in their original form, so please spread the word and share these links with your networks. And please, if you have any feedback for us, send that feedback to p3@va.gov to let us know if this event was useful, what you liked about it, tell us you like us, and what we can improve upon. So once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.